Okay, in the world of business, there is one tool, one thing that cuts through all the noise and tells you, plain and simple, if you're winning or losing. It's called a key performance indicator, or you've probably heard it called a KPI. And today, we're going to totally demystify it.
I mean, just think about it for a second. We're living in a world of practically infinite data, right? Every single click, every sale, every little customer interaction, it all creates more data. So with all this information just flying around, how does anyone actually know if they're heading in the right direction?
Well, the truth is, most businesses are basically drowning in data, but they're starving for clarity. And this cockpit right here, it's the perfect way to think about it. Imagine you're the pilot. You've got hundreds of blinking lights, all these spinning dials. If you don't know which one truly matters, all that information isn't just useless, it can be downright dangerous. And that's the exact spot so many companies find themselves in.
So how do you find that one dial that tells you if you're actually on course? Well, the answer is the KPI. It really is a simple kind of elegant solution to what seems like a super complex problem.
But what is a KPI really? I mean, it's not just any old number or metric you can track. A true KPI is a specific, measurable value that is tied directly to a key business objective. Think of it as being purpose-built. It's designed to be the one clear signal that tells you, at a glance, exactly how you're doing.
Okay, to really get a feel for the power of a KPI, we kind of have to pop the hood and see what's inside. You'll see that every great KPI is built from 4 essential parts. And to make this super clear, we're going to use a really common one as our guide: profit margin. First up, we have the value. This is just the raw number, the core measurement itself. So for our example, let's say after all the math is done, our company's profit margin is 3.25%. Simple enough, right? But here's the thing. On its own, that number doesn't really tell us a whole lot.
And that's because a number without a goal is pretty much meaningless. The goal is what gives our value context. Is 3.25% good? Is it bad? Well, if our company's goal was 2%, then all of a sudden 3.25% looks fantastic. So you see, the goal is just that benchmark that we're measuring against.
Next up is what we call the status. And you can just think of this as the immediate visual gut check. The traffic light analogy is perfect here. It compares the value to the goal and gives you an instant verdict. So since our 3.25% is way above our 2% goal, our status is a big, bright green light. It's literally the KPI shouting, "Hey, you're succeeding!"
And last but definitely not least, we have the trend. This is what adds that crucial dimension of time. I mean, a green status is great, for sure, but are we actually getting better, or are we just coasting? The trend shows us the direction by comparing our current performance to how we've done in the past. It tells us if we're improving, getting worse, or just kind of holding steady.
But here's where things get really interesting. The true power of a KPI, the real game changer, is when they stop being these static, fixed scorecards and become genuinely intelligent tools. See, a KPI's goal doesn't have to be set in stone. In fact, the absolute best ones adapt to the situation.
So a simple approach might be to have just one goal for the whole company, a one-size-fits-all target. Let's say a 2% profit margin for everybody, no matter what. But a smarter approach, well, it recognizes that different parts of the business face totally different challenges. The goal for a super mature market should probably be different from the goal for a brand new one, right?
Let's actually see this in practice. Okay, so the company's big overall goal might be 2%. But for a really challenging territory, say North America, maybe a more realistic goal is set at 0.75%. Now, all of a sudden, a profit margin that would have looked bad if you compared it to the company-wide number is now correctly identified as great for that specific region. That right there is the power of dynamic goals. They give you way more accurate, way more useful insights.
So we've peeked behind the curtain and seen all the logic, but what does this actually look like for the manager or the executive who has to use this stuff to make a decision? How does all that complexity get boiled down into something simple and, actually actionable?
Well, this is it. This is the end result. All that complex logic we just talked about, the calculations, the dynamic targets, it all gets distilled down into these 4 simple fields. A manager doesn't need to see the code or the formulas. They just need to see the value, understand the goal, check the status, and follow the trend. That's it. And that trend component is really where the story comes to life. Just imagine this chart shows your profit margin. Back in 2010, it's 2.34%. Pretty good. Then, a big dip in 2011, down to just 0.16%. Ouch. But then, look at that. a really strong recovery in 2012, all the way up to 3.25%. You see, this one simple visual tells a whole story of struggle and recovery that a single number just never could.
All right, so we've taken the KPI apart, we've seen how all the pieces work. Now let's zoom back out and bring it all together. Why does any of this matter? Why is getting a handle on this concept so incredibly important?
Because here's the crucial point. When you get it right, a KPI acts like a bridge. It connects that chaotic, messy world of raw data to the clear, confident world of making good decisions. It's how you finally transform all that noise into a single, reliable signal you can use to, well, to steer the ship.
And you know, this whole way of thinking isn't just for big corporations. It's for any goal you want to achieve. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What's the single most important KPI for your own goals? Whether it's in business or just in life, what's that one measurable value that tells you you're on track to getting what matters most?